Yeah, today we are going to start with the topic that is the water pollution, right? But before we start with water pollution, you should be familiar with the term that what is actually the pollution is, right? So we are just starting with the basic, that is what is the pollution. See, pollution is actually contamination of any substance with the undesirable and harmful substance. Suppose we have air, right? So if in air there are certain substances present which are harmful and they are undesired, that means they are not serving a constructive use for the air. So that means they are just regarded as the pollutants and they are just polluting the air. So likewise, these undesirable and harmful substances can be present in air, it can be present in water, it can be present in soil. So that means or in general what we can say that pollution is the contamination of the substance with undesirable and harmful substances, and those undesirable and harmful substances are just called as pollutants, right? Now the question comes, like, what is the basic nature of the pollutants? So you should know that these pollutants can be physical in nature, they can be chemical in nature, and even they can be biological. Means the factors which leads to the pollution, or you can say the substances, they can be a physical thing, they can be a chemical substance like SO2 gas, CO2 gas, or you can say some the heavy metals and all. So they means they can be chemical in nature, and moreover the presence of microorganism just suggests that it can be biological in nature, right? Now the question is that as we know that what is the pollution and what is the pollutants and what different types of pollutants we come across, and what are the sources from which actually these pollutants come. So these sources are actually the natural sources also, because there are certain natural activities which are happening around which leads to the you can say the release of that particular kind of undesirable substance in air, right? And it can be a man-made cause also, like due to some human activities also it can be present in a substance. That means it is contaminating the given substance. So that means their source can be natural and even their source can be the man-made activities also. So now we are just going to discuss about the water pollution. That means you are familiar with the pollution, you are familiar with the pollutants, that the type of the pollutants, and even you are familiar that what are the sources, right? I'll just sum up here. So the sources can be man-made and the sources can be natural, right? Now the same is applicable for the air pollution, same is applicable for the water pollution, and same is applicable for the soil pollution. But what they differ in? They differ in the type of pollutants, or you can say they differ in the substances, those harmful and undesirable substances which are present in that given substance, whether it is air, whether it is water, or whether it is soil. So at this moment we are just going to start with the water pollution, just to look for it what kind of substances are just polluting water and what adverse effect do they have, and whether we are affected or not by that presence, right? So if somebody asks you what is water pollution, if somebody asks you what is air pollution, so definition is definitely going to be same. You just have to change the name of the substance. Like if I ask you in general what is pollution, so you are going to say that the contamination of the substance with the undesirable and harmful substances, right? But if I ask you that what is water pollution, then what you are going to answer? You are going to answer in a way that the contamination of water with harmful and undesirable substance. So that is something water pollution, right? So that means obviously there are undesirable and harmful substances which are present in water, that is just contaminating the water. Now what are those the substances, those pollutants which are actually affecting the water, right? So they are, so the pollutants that pollute the water are actually the detergents, the agriculture waste, the industrial waste, the sewage, the microorganisms, right? And also it can be oil drilling. So all these are the, see, apart from that we have many other causes also which are just polluting water, but actually the main causes of the water pollution are these 6 factors, right? So what is it? We are just going to discuss one by one, like knowingly or unknowingly how they are just disturbing the water, or how they are polluting the water, or you can say how they are disturbing the aquatic life which is present in water, or what effect, adverse effect do they have on us or on the soil as well, right? So first factor is the detergent. So the question comes, where these detergents are used? As you all are familiar what actually the detergents are. Detergents are the chemicals which are used in the houses or anywhere, and their use is that they are solving the purpose for cleaning, and they are just or you can say they have a laundry use, and also they are used in dishwashing, right? So that means detergents we need obviously we are in immediate need of detergents, because we need to clean the utensils as well, we need to clean the clothes. So detergents have a, you can say, a broad use, because it is used as a a disinfectant also, and so to how they are just polluting water, our concern is that, right? So what, you know what actually detergents contain? These detergents contain sodium hypochlorite. Most of the detergents, they contain sodium hypochlorite. I'll just write the name also. So most of the detergents contain this NaClO, that is sodium hypochlorite, and along with that what they have phosphates in them, and along with that they have the surfactants also in them. So you know that these 3 things, that is the sodium hypochlorite, the phosphates and the surfactants, they are actually the needed substance for the detergent to solve its use. That means like the detergent is being used for laundry. So if these substances won't be present in the detergent, so it won't be able to just fulfill its purpose, right? So now just look at the uses, like what actually they are doing for the detergents, or what actual they are just helping detergent to solve its purpose, right? So the first is the sodium hypochlorite. So this sodium hypochlorite is an effective disinfectant. So it has to be present in detergent so that the detergent can be used in laundry or for any cleaning purpose, right? So that means this serves as an you can say an important constituent of the detergent. So it has to be present in the detergent. We cannot you can say we cannot substitute it with some other chemical. Second is phosphate. Phosphate also plays an important role, right? So how it plays an important role in detergent? It just helps in softening the water, right? So it is just what function it is fulfilling in detergent? It is softening the water, and moreover it just helps in removing the stains of grease and oils, and moreover it just reduces the alkalinity also. So that means it is also an important constituent. It cannot be substituted by any chemical, right? So it has to be present in the detergents. Next we have is surfactants. So moreover you know that what are the surfactants, and we thoroughly need them, right? So that means these presence of these 3 substances has to be there in the detergents, because they are serving some important uses so that the detergent can be used in laundry or the dishwashing, right? But how it is actually how it is just polluting the water? You know that out of them this sodium hypochlorite is also, you can say, a chemical substance. So when it just get disposed into water, it just affect the water. You know how it affect the water? I'll just discuss when I'll just club surfactants and all, right? So at this moment you should know that this is a chemical, and if disposed in water it can cause the pollution. We'll discuss the factor that how it can cause pollution. Second we have phosphate. So all of the 3, the surfactants, the phosphates and the sodium hypochlorite, so when the detergents gets disposed in the water bodies, what they do, they actually lead to the excess growth of algae. They actually lead to the growth of algae in the water body. So this the growth of algae is so numerous, or you can say algae spread in water in one go, and the amount is too high, and you know the excess growth of algae is something called as the phenomena that is the water bloom. So I can say that when these chemicals are just disposed into water, they lead to the excess growth of algae, or you can say they lead to water bloom. Now the question must be arising in your mind that how water bloom is polluting the water bodies, or how the presence of algae is just affecting the water. So you know that, do you know that this water bloom, what does it do, like how it affects the water? This excess growth of algae takes all the oxygen which is present in the water bodies, and when it just extract the amount of the excess of oxygen from the water bodies, how the aquatic life is going to respire in that case. So that means this water bloom will just affect the aquatic life because they will deoxygenate the water. That means the water, the oxygen level in the water will just fall, and the aquatic life won't get the oxygen for the respiration. So what will happen to the aquatic life? Obviously they will die. So that means this water bloom actually leads to the this thing, eutrophication. This whole phenomena is called as eutrophication, and this is something very important, and you get in exam, and like it is a very important term which you often come across as a question in paper, that what is eutrophication or how it is caused, right? So what is the, you can say, a technical term which is used for eutrophication. So if somebody asks you about eutrophication, so just say that excess disposal of chemical into water bodies leads to the excess growth of algae, that is called as water bloom. And what does this water bloom do? This water bloom just it deoxygenate the water. That means it extract the excess amount of oxygen from the water bodies, leaving behind less oxygen, which is you can say the amount is so minimum that it is not fulfilling the demand of aquatic life. So they don't get oxygen for the respiration, and when they will not get the oxygen for the respiration, then how they will survive? Obviously they are going to die. So eutrophication is something, a phenomena that happens when the chemicals just get disposed into water bodies, leading to water bloom, leading to deoxygenating water, and just affecting the aquatic life. So this is actually how the detergents are just you can say they are this thing affecting the water, right? Because they are affecting the water life, aquatic life. So obviously they are just you can say they are just polluting the water. So I think it's clear that how the detergents are just affecting the or how they are acting as a water pollutant. Second we have is an agriculture waste, right? So you know that for better crop production we need to use certain chemicals. We use pesticides. Pesticides are certain chemicals which just destroy the pest, right? Because pests are the organisms which just destroy the crops. So we don't want our crops to be destroyed. Obviously we need the production should be high. So what we do, we just spray them with the chemicals, that is the pesticides. That means the chemical which will just stop the growth of the pest, right? And obviously they are needed for the better the crop production or for a sustainable agriculture. We need that. So what happens? So we need the pesticides. Obviously that is clear that we don't want the pest to attack crops, so we need the pesticides. There are not only the pesticides, there are many chemicals which we are using, right? See, we need to increase the fertility of the soil because it is directly or indirectly just involving in the increase in the crop production. So we need the the fertilizers also, right? And you know that the fertilizers are also the chemicals, they are increasing the fertility of the soil, but they are also chemical in nature. If get disposed to the water body, they will also leads to an eutrophication. That means a stage can come, like if we just we have an excess use of this fertilizers or the chemicals, whether in the agriculture or the detergents, so they will just affect the aquatic life, and if the aquatic life will extinct, so that means a food chain is just going to there will be a blockage in the food chain and it will just affect the ecosystem. So that means the agriculture branch, or you can say the agriculture waste, is also polluting this the water bodies. Third, we have the industrial waste. Now see, with the increase of modernization, obviously we need industries, right? Because industries are just solving many uses for us. Like there are industries which are synthesizing certain chemicals like detergents. They are synthesizing the perfumes, dyes. So we need all those products. We are in an immediate need of those products because in market or in a daily life they are just solving some purpose for us, right? So with increase in modernization, the industrialization is also increasing, and when the industrialization utilization is increasing, it is just benefiting us, but it has a, you can say, adverse effect on our our panch tattva, that is the air, water, soil, the water, and this kinds of things, right? So that means they have to be we have to minimize, we have to do certain kind of things so that they should not pollute the our you can say the ecosystem, or they should not affect the ecosystem. Now, how our concern at this moment is that how industrial waste is just polluting the water bodies. So, as I have told you, there are so many industries, the mines, the dyes industry, the paints industry, the pesticides industries. So, that means they are also just releasing certain kind of substances which are destroying the water nature. So, what are those substances? They can be organic, inorganic, they can be acid and alkalis, they can be some other chemical compounds. So, in any way they are just destroying the water. For example, we have some heavy metals, right, like the lead and the mercury, and you know that if these heavy metals get disposed into water, they are just affecting the water. Now, how? For example, the example which is striking in my mind, you know, you are aware of the lead metal, right? You know that like if the lead is disposed to the water body, and through water, if we take the untreated water, that means if lead comes into the food chain, how it is just going to like what adverse effect it is going to have on our body. It will just reduce the activity of the enzymes, and you know enzymes are the chemicals which are actually needed in the body because they are performing many biochemical reactions. So if lead knowingly or unknowingly get into the food chain or into any organism, it is just going to you can say degrade the activity of the enzymes. So that means it is just you can say an adverse effect on that organism which taken that lead. As likewise, we have mercury also. You know, mercury can cause mercury poisoning. How? The mercury, when exposed to the disposed to the water, gets converted to the methyl mercury. I repeat, when mercury is disposed into the water, it has a tendency that it gets converted into methyl mercury, and it gets inoculated, and fish is obviously there in the water, so that means directly or indirectly this methyl mercury is present in that fish also, and we all are fond of taking fish. So when we take the fish, so that means that methyl mercury enters in our body and it causes the disease, that is the mercury poisoning. So obviously that means it is having an adverse effect on our body or any other member of the food chain. So obviously it is affecting the ecosystem, right? So likewise, we have many nitrates, phosphates also. They are also just harmful for us, like the nitrates, phosphate, the inorganic substances or the organic which we get from the industrial waste. So they also leads to the eutrophication which we discussed, that is water bloom, that is the deoxygenation of water. So that means that is also serving as an you can say, and it also has an adverse effect. Moreover, there are certain, you can say, the industrial waste also contains the oils or the alkalis. So they also affect the water because they don't let oxygen to enter in, they just form the film on the surface. So that means that that is also affecting the aquatic life, and if the aquatic life will suffer, obviously the water pollution will take place, and if the water bodies will get polluted, because it is one of the the elementary factor of the biosphere, that is one of the member of the panch tattva. So that means our ecosystem will just get disturbed. So that means this industrial waste also has it acts as a pollutant, or it has an adverse effect on the water bodies. The next factor is the sewage. Now, what is the sewage? Or you know that the sewage is mostly it is a domestic sewage. Now, the question must be arising in your mind, what is domestic sewage? So, domestic sewage is actually the untreated waste water which just get disposed into the water bodies. So, that means the sewage is also creating many you can say many problems for us, like it is just spreading the disease, because when the sewage is just disposed into the water, untreated sewage is disposed into water, it leads to the growth of the microorganisms that cause diseases. As you know, typhoid, malaria, they all occur due to presence of the microorganisms, and there are many other diseases as well that are caused by the microorganisms, right? Likewise, the sewage may contain maximum it contain the organic and the inorganic substances, like the things which we are using at home, like in kitchen you are using the foods, you are using the vegetables, you are using the fruits. So they all act as an organic substances, and if they are present in sewage, they are just going to affect the water bodies. Likewise, we have soaps and detergents also, like we are doing laundry and we just pass the untreated water into the water body. So that means directly or indirectly we are just disturbing our ecosystem, right? And nobody wants to do that, because we are directly or indirectly we get affected by it, because we need water. You know that the water is really needed for the survival, right? We cannot live without water. So that means this sewage is also creating a problem, and it just increases the BOD also. Now, what is BOD? BOD is actually biological oxygen demand. So what happens when this untreated wastewater just gets disposed into the water bodies? So it just increases the BOD. How it is increasing that? It's because this sewage, when disposed in water, it leads to the production of many microorganisms, and those microorganisms are also taking the dissolved oxygen of the water. So that means the biological oxygen demand in the water will just get increased, and if it will get increased, and if it is not meeting that sufficient amount of oxygen, so that means obviously it is going to create in water pollution. That means it is going to affect aquatic life, and if any one factor of a food chain gets affected, so we also get affected. So that means it also one of the pollutant that is just polluting the water. Moreover, microorganisms, oil drilling, that I have already explained you, because they are causing the diseases. These oils also, like when the oil just escapes into disposed into the water, they are just forming the film, and they do not allow the oxygen to come into the water. So that means how aquatic life is going to suffer, right? So these are actually the factors that are creating the water pollution. So we should take certain measures in order just to reduce them. Like we should look for an alternative constituent for the detergent, so that it doesn't lead to an eutrophication, which I told you is an important impact on the water. Likewise, agriculture waste, we can make use of certain substances like the manures or any other substances which are biodegradable that do not cause pollution. So that means we can take into account or we can just make use of those substances other than using the chemicals like fertilizers, pesticides. We can look for some alternative source. Obviously, the science is just you can say the scientists are all working in the different fields. They are just looking for the alternatives, because we need a substance which fulfill all our purposes and should be eco-friendly as well, right? So the scientists are all working in the field. So we can just upgrade our education, and we can just take some measures, or we can just invent something. We have this kind of zeal in us that we can do something like that, so that we can just remove an impact of this agriculture waste or the chemicals on the water bodies, and can save aquatic life. Likewise, industrial waste or sea waste, we can treat water before disposing it, right? So that means we can do a certain measures, and even the government should make certain organizations who can work on this part, who can just educate people about this water pollution or the importance of the water, so that we can just you can say reduce the effect of these harmful substances on the water and just get rid of the water pollution.